Cold shadows at dusk. The wind howled through the alien mountains like a monster. Snow fell heavily from the dark sky, covering the ground in a thick white sheet. John, a human explorer, sat inside his small survival tent. He had come to this frozen planet for research, but the storm had trapped him for days. The heater in his tent buzzed softly, keeping the cold just far enough away. John sipped on warm liquid from a metal cup and checked his scanner. Still no signals. Still no life. Just ice, snow, and silence. Suddenly, a sound. A faint cry. Weak. Far away. John froze. He lowered his cup and listened again. The wind screamed, but under it, there it was again. A soft voice, like someone in pain. He stood up quickly, grabbing his thick coat and stepping out of the tent. The cold hit him like a wall, biting into his skin. He turned on his visor light and looked around. Nothing but snow. Then he saw it. A small figure, half buried in the snow about 20 feet from his tent. The body wasn't human. It was thinner, with light purple skin and glowing marks along the arms. Long silver hair blew in the wind like threads of light. It was a girl, a young alien girl, and she was not moving. John ran toward her. "Hey! Can you hear me?" he shouted. The girl didn't answer. He knelt down and placed a hand on her neck. She was cold, too cold, but still alive. Her skin was almost frozen, and her simple clothes were ripped. She had no boots, no coat, just bare feet in the snow. John didn't waste time. He lifted her up gently in his arms. She was light, too light, like she hadn't eaten in days. Her head fell against his chest as he carried her back to the tent. Inside, he laid her on a padded mat and zipped the tent closed. He wrapped her in every heat blanket he had. Her fingers were ice cold and shaking. Her eyes stayed closed. "Come on, stay with me," John said softly. He turned up the heat. He rubbed her arms and legs, careful not to hurt her. Her skin was smooth and marked with faint glowing lines like tattoos, but alive. Minutes passed. Her breathing stayed shallow but steady. Then, she coughed. John leaned closer. Hey, you're okay now. You're safe." Slowly, her eyes opened. They were large, glowing violet and full of fear. The girl jerked back, her hands pushed weakly against him. She looked around, confused, trembling like a frightened animal. "Hey." "It's all right," John said gently, raising his hands. "I won't hurt you." She looked at his face, her body tense. Then she looked down at the heat blanket, touching it like she had never felt such warmth before. Her lips moved. A word came out, but not in English. It was soft, broken, and unknown. John shook his head slowly. "I don't understand you, but I'm here to help." She kept her eyes on him. Her breathing calmed a little. She wrapped the blanket tighter around herself. Her hands were still shaking. John took a food pack from his bag and opened it. He held it out to her. She hesitated, then took it with both hands. She sniffed it, then tasted a small bite. Tears filled her eyes. She began to eat quickly, too quickly. "Slow down," John said. "There's more. Take it easy." She looked at him again, her eyes soft now, grateful. A few more minutes passed. The tent was quiet, just the sound of the heater and her quiet breathing. She leaned back slowly, her body finally warming. John sat beside her but gave her space. Outside, the storm roared louder. Inside, something strange happened. The marks on her arms began to glow a little brighter. Her breath became visible in the warm air, not like normal human breath, but glowing blue mist. She looked down at her hands and made a strange shape with her fingers, like a symbol. A light blinked in the air for just a second, then vanished. John noticed it. "What was that?" he whispered. The girl looked at him. Her eyes were wide again, but this time not from fear, from warning. She raised a trembling hand and pointed to the tent wall, to the world outside. Then she whispered a word, just one. "Hunters." John felt his chest tighten. He looked outside through the scanner. Nothing yet. But the girl knew something was coming. Something that had chased her through the snow, something that would come looking, and now they both were in danger. Her skin was ice. Her eyes held fire. The heater hummed gently inside the small tent, but the air suddenly felt heavy, as if danger had entered with the cold. John sat still, staring at the alien girl who had just whispered, "One word, hunters." He didn't know who or what they were, but her eyes told him enough. She was terrified. The girl pulled the heat blanket closer to her body. Her skin, now glowing faintly under the warmth, shimmered like glass touched by starlight. The strange tattoos on her arms moved, not like ink, but like light flowing through her veins. John tried not to show his shock. She wasn't just some lost alien girl. She was something more. "Hunters?" John asked again, his voice low. She looked at him, then slowly pressed her small palm against the tent floor. A soft hum filled the air, and tiny blue lights rose up from the surface, forming a shaky image. 3 dark figures with glowing red eyes and long, sharp arms. The image faded in seconds, but it was enough. John leaned back. "So, they're after you." The girl nodded once. Her body trembled, not just from the cold, but from fear. Her gaze dropped, and she touched the mark on her shoulder. It looked like a burn, but shaped like a brand, a cruel spiral. She had been owned, marked. John's jaw clenched. He had seen this before in war zones on Earth, prisoners, hunted escapees, broken souls. He hated it then. He hated it now. He reached into his bag, pulled out a scarf, and gently wrapped it around her neck. She flinched at first but didn't stop him. "You're safe here," he whispered. "I won't let them find you." Just then, her skin flared with heat. John felt it instantly, a pulse of warmth against the cold air. Her body temperature was rising, but not like a fever, more like a reaction. Her eyes snapped open, bright violet, now glowing. "Wait, what's happening?" John asked, stepping back. The girl was breathing hard. Her hands clutched the blanket. Her body glowed brighter now, as if her energy was rising fast. She looked at him and shook her head, desperate. "I didn't mean to," John began, but suddenly she reached for his hand. The moment she touched his skin, a wave of soft heat passed through both of them. John gasped, not because of pain, because of what he saw. A memory, not his own. A snowy field, chains breaking, a metal cell door slamming. The girl, this same girl, running barefoot through the snow, her breath shaking, her heart screaming for freedom. John pulled his hand back, his eyes wide. "What was that?" The girl let out a weak sound, almost like a cry. Then she slumped to the side, exhausted. Her power faded, the glow dimmed, and her skin returned to its soft purple shade. She had shared something with him, not words, not pictures, but feelings. Raw, real and sharp. John knelt beside her, heart pounding. She was still breathing, but her energy was drained. Outside, the storm calmed just enough to hear a distant hum. He crawled to the tent flap and peeked out. Through the foggy night, a soft red light pulsed behind the trees. Slow, cold, mechanical. Something was scanning the area. He turned back to the girl. She was watching him now, her eyes full of worry. "Don't worry," he whispered. "I've got you." She raised her hand again and traced a glowing symbol in the air. It hovered there for a moment, then faded. "What does that mean?" he asked softly. She pressed her hand to her chest, then pointed at him. "A bond. A thank you. Or something deeper." John didn't know. But he did know this. This girl had been hunted. She had powers no one understood. And now, because he helped her, he was part of it too. The red light outside grew brighter. John grabbed his EMP charge and checked its battery. "I hope you're ready," he muttered. The girl didn't answer. But this time, she smiled. The trackers arrived. The red light outside the tent moved slowly, like a ghost searching through the snow. It blinked, paused, then blinked again. John turned off the heater. Silence. The warmth inside the tent faded, but the danger outside grew, stronger. He placed a finger on his lips and looked at the alien girl. She nodded. She understood the signal. Her glowing skin dimmed as if she could control her light by will. The wind had stopped, but now the night felt louder. Too loud. Crunch. Crunch. Footsteps. Not normal ones. Metal. Heavy. Sharp. John peeked, through a small gap in the tent. A tall machine creature walked past, scanning the ground with long red beams. Its head moved like a hawk, sharp, focused, deadly. It had 4 arms, each one shaped like a blade or a claw. And behind it hovered 2 smaller scout drones whirring softly. John whispered, "What the hell are you?" He had seen combat bots before. Earth had them too. But this was different. This wasn't built for war. It was built to hunt. The alien girl, Sira, was sitting with her knees pulled to her chest. Her hands were over her mouth. Her breathing was quiet but fast. Her glowing marks were now nearly invisible, hiding her identity. She was trying hard to not be found. The hunter stopped outside the tent. Its red eye stared directly at the fabric, wall. John held his breath. Then, a voice, not from a speaker, inside his head. "Surrender the subject. Her blood is not yours to protect." John's eyes widened. He looked at Sira. She was shaking her head violently. "No, no, no." He pressed, the emergency jammer on his wrist. The telepathic message broke with a hiss. The red light blinked again. The hunter scanned the tent's heat signature. Maybe it didn't see the girl's faint glow. Maybe. Suddenly, the smaller drone zipped forward and touched the tent. It made a sound like a scream made of metal. John didn't wait. He punched the EMP trigger. Boom! A pulse of blue light blasted from the tent, frying the drone instantly. Sparks flew into the snow. The hunter screamed, high, sharp, like a knife through glass, and charged forward. John rolled over Sira, shielding her as the front of the tent ripped open. The hunter's claw slashed through the air, just missing his back. John kicked out, knocking over one of its legs. The machine stumbled but didn't fall. Sira raised her hand and screamed something in her language. A blast of light shot from her palm. The hunter staggered, its red eye flickering. John grabbed his flare gun and fired at its chest. The flare exploded in its sensor core, burning bright white. The machine let out a final broken screech. Then, fell to the ground twitching. Smoke filled the tent. The heat blankets caught fire. The wind blew snow inside. The entire shelter was breaking apart. John coughed and pulled Sira close. "We can't stay here." He threw what supplies he could into a small bag and grabbed her hand. "Run." They ran into the snowy darkness, away from the wrecked tent, away from the fallen hunter, and away from whatever else might be coming. After what felt like hours, they stopped near a cave carved into the side of a mountain. The entrance was hidden by thick ice and fallen branches. John pushed them aside and helped Sira inside. It was cold and dark, but at least they were hidden. He collapsed beside her, chest rising and falling fast. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded slowly, her hair wet with melting snow. Her eyes still, glowed but weakly. He handed her a water pack. She drank a little, then looked at him with tired eyes. "You didn't leave me," she said. Her voice, broken, heavy accent, but real English. John looked at her, surprised. "You speak English? Now? Not good. Learning. Your memories," she whispered. "You let me touch." John remembered the earlier pulse, the shared memory. So she had learned through that? "That's amazing," he said, blinking. She smiled faintly, then touched her chest. "I owe you my life." John sighed and looked outside at the dark. sky. Let's just survive the night. But deep down, he knew this was only the beginning. The hunter wasn't alone, and he had just made enemies far more dangerous than he ever expected. Her secret weapon. The cave was dark, but she was glowing. Not from fear, but from something deep inside her, something waking up. John sat by the small entrance, keeping watch. The snow outside had stopped falling, but the silence wasn't peaceful. It was the kind of silence that warned you. Something worse is coming. Behind him, Sira sat near the cave wall, eyes closed, her hands placed flat on the icy ground. Her body was still weak, but the lines on her skin had begun to move again, not randomly, but with purpose. John turned toward her. "What are you doing?" Her voice was soft. "Charging. Charging. My power. It comes from the world. From light, heat, sound, movement." She paused. "And pain." John didn't like the sound of that. Sira opened her eyes and stood slowly. Her legs shook, but she steadied herself. Then she looked at him, serious. "I need to show you something." Before he could answer, she raised her hand. A glowing mark on her palm lit up, then exploded into a soft burst of red energy that hit the far cave wall. The ice cracked. The wall shook. John jumped back. "Whoa!" Sira's breathing grew faster. She fell to her knees, drained again. I can't hold it long yet." John helped her sit. "That blast, that was inside you the whole time?" She nodded. "They locked it. The hunters. When I escaped, the seal started to break. So, you're some kind of weapon?" She looked away. "I was a tool, a weapon they made. But I don't want to be that anymore." John sat beside her. "Then be something else. Use it to survive, use it to choose." Sira stared at him, confused. "Choose?" "Yeah. You get to choose what you want to be now, not them." She didn't answer, but something in her eyes shifted. The fear faded. Just a little. Hours passed. John tried to rest, but the cave was cold. He gave Sira his jacket, watching her sleep with soft breaths. Even in her alien features, he saw something human. Then, a vibration in the ground. He jumped up. The snow outside was still. No footsteps, no drones. But the earth was humming. Sira opened her eyes and sat up fast. "They're calling." Calling what?" She stood, her skin glowing brighter now. Her hair lifted slightly as if pulled by unseen energy. "They sent a beast. Not machine, not man. Something worse." John grabbed his scanner. "I don't see anything yet." "Because it walks below." Suddenly the cave wall cracked. Boom! Snow and ice shattered inward. A massive clawed hand smashed through the rock, pulling itself into the tunnel. John fell back. His eyes widened as the creature entered. 10 feet tall, armored skin, 6 legs, no face, just rows of blinking red lights across its head. Sira stepped forward. "Wait. What are you doing?" John shouted. She didn't answer. Her glowing marks brightened until they covered her entire body like armor made of light. The beast roared, a sound that shook the bones. She raised both hands, then slammed them into the ground. Flash. A blinding red light exploded in the cave. The beast shrieked, stumbling backward, its skin sizzling. John covered his eyes, blinded for a moment. When he looked again, the creature was down, but not dead. It growled, slower now, but crawling, toward Sira again. She was breathing hard. Too hard. Her knees were weak. John ran to her side and held her up. "Don't, you'll burn yourself out." "I have to finish it," she whispered. "Not alone." John pulled a small charge from his belt, one of his last explosives. "I'll blind it. You aim." She looked at him with surprise, then nodded. John threw the charge at the beast's feet. Boom! The blast filled the cave with smoke and dust. Sira raised her hand one last time and focused all her energy into one point. A beam of burning red fire shot straight into the creature's core. It screamed, then fell, smoking, silent, dead. John collapsed against the cave wall, heart pounding. Sierra fell beside him, completely drained, her skin dim again. He looked at her. "You call that a secret weapon?" She gave a small, tired smile. "You haven't seen the big one yet." John laughed once. "Remind me never to make you angry." A bond forged in fire. She didn't wake up. Not for minutes. Not even after John called her name. Her body lay still in the cold cave, her glowing skin now faded like dying embers. Sierra had used everything, every drop of her strange energy to kill the beast. John leaned over her, panic growing in his chest. "Sierra, hey, come on. Wake up." She didn't move. Her breathing was shallow. He touched her face. Cold. Too cold. No. No, not like this. John remembered how he had found her, half frozen in the snow, nearly dead. He had promised himself then that he would protect her. He wasn't going to fail now. John ripped open his emergency blanket and wrapped it around her body. Then he pulled her gently into his arms, holding her close, sharing his body heat. He didn't care that she was alien. He didn't care what powers she had. To him, she was just someone who needed help, and somehow, someone who mattered. "Breathe. Damn it," he whispered, brushing her hair back. "I didn't carry you across a mountain just to lose you here." The glow on her neck flickered. Very faint, but there. John held her tighter. The warmth between them began to build. Her skin responded again, pulsing softly like a heartbeat of light. Then, a sound. A gasp. Sierra's eyes opened, unfocused at first. She blinked up at him, dazed. "John?" He almost laughed. "There you are." She tried to sit up but fell back into his arms. "I'm sorry." "For what? Saving my life again?" "I used too much," she said. "I wasn't ready. It hurts." John shook his head. "You don't need to be ready. You just need to be alive." She looked at him for a long moment. Then something changed in her expression. Softness. Trust. A strange glow in her violet eyes that wasn't power. It was something deeper. "I felt something," she said slowly. "When you held me, I was trying to warm you." "No," she whispered. "Before that, in the dark, when I was fading, I felt your thoughts, your fear, your pain, and your care." John was silent. "I've never felt that from anyone before," she added. He didn't know what to say, so he just held her closer. Outside the cave, the wind started again. But inside, it was warmer now. Not because of fire, because of the bond between them. Later that night, they sat by a small light John built from a plasma core. Sierra had recovered enough to eat, though slowly. She stared into the glow, silent. John handed her some dried fruit. "Here, sweet stuff might help," she smiled faintly. "You humans eat strange things, and you aliens glow like broken Christmas lights." She laughed, just a little. But it was the first time he heard it, and he liked it. She looked down at her hands. "You know, I wasn't made to survive. I was made to destroy." John shook his head. "You survived more than most ever could. You made it across the cold, escaped machines, killed a beast, and still made me laugh. That's not destruction. What is it then?" He looked at her seriously. "That's life." Sierra stared at him. Then without a word, she moved closer. She leaned her head against his shoulder, her body still weak but calm now. "I feel safe. Here." John didn't move. He didn't want to break the moment. "You are," he whispered. She closed her eyes. "Then I'll protect you too. If they come again, I'll fight." He chuckled. "Let's hope it doesn't come to that." But deep down, he knew it would. This bond, this fire between them, was no longer just survival. It was a promise. And The galaxy wouldn't like it. The ones who hunted her, the wind stopped. The stars disappeared. And the mountain went silent. Not the peaceful kind of silence. The kind before something terrible arrives. John stood at the mouth of the cave, his breath showing in the cold air. His pulse was steady, but every instinct inside him screamed that something was wrong. Too quiet, too still. Even the air felt heavy, like it was being pushed down by something unseen. Inside the cave, Sira stirred. Her eyes opened slowly, glowing, again, but softer now. "They're near," she whispered before John even said a word. He looked back at her. "How do you know?" "I feel them," she said, voice low. "They made me. Part of me still hears them." John walked back to her. "Who are they, Sira? Who are the ones that made you?" She sat up slowly, her face serious. "They call themselves the Naran Corps, an empire without a face, no leader. No names, only minds. They don't speak like us, they speak inside, and they never stop hunting." John swallowed hard. "Why you?" "Because I escaped. Because I wasn't supposed to think for myself." She touched the mark on her shoulder again. The spiral brand. "They called me Subject 7A. I was one of many, but I was the only one who woke up." He sat beside her. "And now they're coming for you." "No," she said quietly, meeting his eyes. "Now they're coming for us." Before he could respond, a sound echoed across the canyon. Not footsteps, not machines. A voice, but it wasn't spoken aloud. "Subject 7A, return now. The human is irrelevant." John grabbed his head. The voice was inside him, deep, cold, sharp like ice cutting through bone. Sira stood, angry now. "Leave him alone," another voice responded, calmer but cruel. "Your bond with the human is a fault. You were made to burn, not feel. Return or both will be erased." Suddenly, the entrance to the cave exploded inward. A figure stepped through the smoke. Tall, humanoid, dressed in black metal armor with long threads flowing behind it like shadows. No face. Only a single white eye at the center of its head. It didn't walk. It glided. John raised his weapon. "Don't move." The figure didn't listen. It raised one hand, and John's blaster flew from his grip, pulled by invisible force. "You are in violation of Galactic code," the voice echoed, in both of their minds. "Return the weapon." Sira stepped in front of John. "He is not a weapon. You gave him your light." "I gave him my trust," she said. For a moment the air grew colder, then two more figures stepped through the broken cave, each taller than the first, all dressed in the same armor. They surrounded the two, slowly closing in. John whispered, "Sira, we can't fight three of them." "I don't need to fight them," she said softly. "I need to choose." Her hands began to glow, not bright, but steady. Her feet lifted off the ground slightly as if the light inside her was pulling her upward. The white-eyed leader paused. "If you activate your core, you will break. You will not survive." Sira looked back at John, calm now. "If I don't, he won't survive." John reached for her hand. "Don't." "I'm not scared anymore," she said. She turned to the enemy. "I'm not your tool. I'm not your subject. And I will never return." Then she slammed her palms together. A wave of red light burst through the cave, shaking the earth. The armored hunters screamed as their forms cracked and twisted. One fell backward and vanished in a flash. The second turned to ash. The third, the leader, stumbled, its white eye dimming. But Sira fell too. She dropped to her knees, coughing, her light flickering. John ran to her. "Sira." The leader rose, again barely standing. "You broke your limit," it hissed. "You'll die with him." John stood tall. "Maybe, but not today." He grabbed his backup flare and launched it straight into the hunter's eye. Boom! This time it fell for good. Burning, sparking, silent. Minutes later, silence returned. John held Sira close as her eyes slowly opened again. "You stayed," she said weakly. He smiled. I told you I would. Tears touched the edge of her glowing eyes. Then I'll stay too, no matter who they send. And just like that, what began as survival was now something else. 2 hearts, 1 bond. Against the galaxy. Warmth that changed a world. The galaxy didn't change in a day. But something did. In the frozen valley where one human held a dying alien girl and chose kindness over fear. Morning light crept over the horizon, touching the snow-covered cliffs with a soft golden glow. The battle was over. The hunters were gone. The cave lay silent, broken walls lit by the first sunrise in days. John sat near the edge of the cliff, Sierra wrapped in his jacket, resting with her head on his shoulder. She was quiet now, not from pain, but peace. Her breathing was steady. Her marks no longer glowed wildly. They pulsed slowly, calmly, like a living heartbeat. For the first time since she fell into his life, she looked free. John stared at the rising sun, silent. He had come to this planet to study rocks. He found a reason to fight instead. Sierra opened her eyes slowly. It's warm. Yeah, John said, smiling. Looks like the sun finally decided to show up. She leaned into him, tired but strong. Your world has many suns? Just one, he replied. But it never hides this long. Not like this one. She looked around, her eyes taking in the view as if seeing it for the first time. I never noticed how beautiful it was. That's because you were always running, he said. Now I want to stay. He looked down at her. You sure? I've never been more sure of anything. Later that day, they reached the nearest outpost. It was a small research station half buried in snow. The scientists were shocked to see John alive. Even more, shocked when they saw Sierra. She stood beside him, no longer hiding, no longer trembling. She was quiet, polite, but firm. This is Sierra, John said. She's with me. They tried to separate them, to question her, to scan her. She didn't resist, but John never left her side, not even once. The station's commander, an older woman named Dr. Lannis, watched Sierra carefully. She had seen many alien species, but never one like this. She's not on any registry, the doctor said quietly to John. What is she? John answered without hesitation. She's someone who deserves a second chance. That was all he said. Word spread fast. A human explorer had brought back an alien girl, one with glowing marks, strange powers, and a past the galaxy had buried. Some called her dangerous, others called her impossible. But when she walked out into the snow with John hand in hand, something strange happened. The scanners stopped glitching. The cold sensors reversed. The lights above flickered once, then glowed brighter, like the planet itself was watching and smiling. Weeks later, a new ship arrived. This time, not to take her, but to listen. Galactic envoys came, scientists, diplomats. Sierra spoke carefully, slowly, but her words were strong. I was made to burn, I choose to heal. They asked her about the Neuron Core, about the hunters. She didn't give them everything, but she gave them a warning. There are more like me, in cages, in labs, hidden behind walls you pretend not to see. One day, they will break free. Be ready. Not with weapons, but with hands willing to help, willing to. They didn't know how to respond. John did. He stood beside her again, just like in the cave, and said, She's not just a survivor. She's proof. Proof that warmth, even in the coldest place, changes everything. The last scene was not on a battlefield. It wasn't in a lab or a council hall, it was just the two of them, on a small hill outside the outpost, watching the stars. Sierra leaned against him, her head resting softly. I used to think light only came from pain, she said. He smiled. What do you think now? She looked up at the stars. That it also comes from love. And then she turned to him, smiling not with power, not with fear, but with hope. I call you Genta, she whispered. What does that mean? In my old language, it means the one I choose. John didn't speak for a moment. Then he took her hand, warm and steady. I choose you too.